Nothing could be finer than a Buffalo win in Carolina. Locked on Bills starts now.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I am your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Victory Monday to you. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Carolina Panthers 40-9 and improved to 5-2 on the season. The Bills needed that win. They needed that win. Plenty of new elements to the defense. They made tons of splash plays. The run game was dominant. A career day, a historic day for James Cook. Of course, the passing game left something to be desired, but ultimately an outstanding win. This team needed some momentum after two consecutive losses and a bye week that felt like an eternity. So we'll do what we do here on these post-game reaction shows. We'll talk about the things I liked and the things I didn't like. We'll talk about what's next for this podcast and for the Bills. Real quick, the voice is a little hoarse. I was at Bank of America Stadium with a lot of other Bills fans. I'd say 65, 75% Bills fans in that stadium. And I did my 111th. I wanted to make sure that I did my part there in the stand. So the throat's a little hoarse. So if I sound a little bit different, we'll be okay in the morning. But certainly did my part there to cheer on the Bills. Let's talk about the things that I liked. We'll start offensively, and there's nowhere else to start other than James Cook. What a game. 19 rushes, 216 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's the most rushing yardage for a Bills player in a single game since 1976. Obviously, the career high for James Cook, and he did it in like 3 quarters. You know, if this was a game that was competitive and he had to play and do something in the fourth quarter, who knows what type of rushing output he would have had. I absolutely love how he ran the football in this game. I had an end zone view of the game, so I could really get that opportunity live to see the lanes develop. He was masterful. He was patient. He was physical. He was explosive, and he carried the offense. 12 rushing first downs in this game. James cooked. And that's a Panthers run defense that's not too bad. They were seventh in the league in EPA per run going into the contest. They held their last 3 opponents to a combined 131 yards. Cook tagged them for 216. The Bills tagged them for 245. All the chatter all week long was about how good this Panthers rushing offense was. Well, the Bills controlled this football game with James Cook and their rushing offense. And obviously, James Cook is going to get all the headlines and all the hype and love, and he deserves it. It's a really good job by this offensive line. Reggie Gilliam was phenomenal. The tight ends, Jackson Hawes was doing his thing, blocking. You saw some good blocks in space by the receivers. It was a really outstanding collective effort by the Buffalo Bills to run the football. And obviously, James Cook having a career day. So obviously things were working with James Cook and the rushing offense. And in the passing game, things were tough. But Khalil Shakir was obviously a huge bright spot. 6 catches on 7 targets, 88 yards, and a touchdown. The opening drive touchdown reception that he had put the Bills up 26-3, and pretty much it was game over from there. And that was a good play. Obviously, a huge catch and run by Khalil, and a good job by Josh Allen to replace the blitz with the ball. And you make one guy miss, and it's a house call. And so, heck of a job there in that play, in that moment, to find Khalil Shakir, who sat down right where that blitzer left, and Josh got it to him, and obviously a big catch and run. So, pretty underwhelming day for the Bills passing offense, but Khalil Shakir, obviously a huge bright spot, and he accounted for a ton of the Bills' production through the air in this football game. We'll talk more about the passing offense, and I think there's plenty to be frustrated with there. But when you just take a deep breath and you think about this offense in totality, it was a really good day for the offense. They score 40 points. They get 23 first downs. They're 7 of 12 on third downs. That's a heck of a conversion rate. They total 410 yards, almost 7 yards per play, which includes garbage time. I mean, the whole fourth quarter was, let's just get this thing over with Mitch Trubisky in the game. And, a lot of carries to Ray Davis where there was pretty much nowhere to go. Of course, the offense didn't turn it over. And when you have this recipe, 40 points, 23 first downs, 410 yards, you don't turn the ball over, you're going to win a lot of football games. And so, obviously, the game script mattered a ton in this one. But offensively, the way that they controlled this game with their rushing offense against a Panthers defense that was pretty good defending the run is something to be happy about. All right, we'll talk more about the offense here on the other side of it and really get into some of the challenges with the passing offense and some ugly sequences for the Bills offensively. We'll do that here next. Folks, be sure to stick with me. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of the sports this season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using Prize Picks during both football on Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It just keeps every game more exciting. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Resurgence comes in. Resurgence offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for EDE designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Resurgence makes it easy to get started. You just get connected with a board-certified doctor 100% online. There's no awkward waiting rooms or no in-person appointments. And if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, it's simple, and it's private. And it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know that we sent you. Resurgence, stop making excuses and start making moves. Welcome back, folks. The Bills 40-9 winners over the Carolina Panthers. I want to continue discussing this offense and really get into some of the lowlights of the offense. I think pretty much anyone that watched this game was pretty frustrated with the passing game. It just wasn't rhythmic. It certainly wasn't the catalyst for the success of the Bills today. And, we used to like that. We used to like when Josh Allen doesn't have to carry the team. And he still had 3 touchdowns in the game. But, it's a couple games in a row now where it just felt like it was really difficult and hard for the Bills to really get the passing offense going. Josh Allen's 12 of 19, for 163 yards and a touchdown in this game. And you'll hear a lot of commentary from different people about how nobody's open or, whatever thing they want to point to. And that's true. But it's not just one thing. I think there's a lot of elements to this passing game that are just not working well right now. I think at the core of it is that you don't have a lot of great options, right? There is some times where nobody is open, and you look at the receiving talent, you're underwhelmed. And obviously the Bills didn't have Josh Palmer in this game, and you kind of felt that. But at the same time, even with Josh Palmer, you'd want to have a little bit more at the receiver position. And so you did have some issues with options and guys being open. Josh Allen missed some throws. Yeah, Josh Allen, he had a certain play where he didn't account for a free runner and took a sack. So you had some all of the above issues. It was probably less about protection in this game and more about, Josh Allen and some decision-making and some accuracy. And of course, the bigger issue is probably receiving talent and, lack of just available options down the field. But it's just a couple of games now in a row where, the Bills couldn't get anything going throwing the football. And this wasn't a good Panthers pass defense. They're, 26th in the NFL in EPA per pass defended going into this game. So it's not like the Bills ran the ball well against a good run defense. They passed the ball poorly against a bad pass defense. And so it's not fun to see that, right? And I really wanted to come out of this game feeling better about the passing offense, and I don't at all. And obviously hungry for a trade at receiver, hungry to get Josh Palmer back, but hungry to see Josh Allen execute this passing game like we know that he can. And so I think when you consider things you don't like offensively in this game, it's really rooted in the passing offense. And a couple games in a row now where it just looks really difficult for the Bills to really find rhythm and be consistent throwing the football. And you had some really ugly sequences and some really ugly sequences in obvious passing situations. I mean, go to the first drive. It's 1st and 10 at the Carolina 23. You get a no gain for Ty Johnson. Then it's an incomplete pass to Ray Davis. I thought there was a good chance to complete that pass. Thought Josh was a little off on the placement, kind of hurried the throw and found him late. Then you take a 4-yard sack on 3rd down because Josh didn't account for the free runner, and you settle for 3 points on a drive where you're kind of moving the ball. The second drive was really frustrating. You're moving the ball again. You get a 3rd and 1 at the 9-yard line, the Panthers 9-yard line. And you're going to convert with a tush push, but instead you get a legal formation. And you go from 1st and 10 to 3rd and 6. And Josh Allen takes a 16-yard loss on the sack. It's 4th and 22 from the 30. So you go from 3rd and 1 at the 9 and hypothetically a 1st and 10 from the 8 to 4th and 22 at the 30. That's sloppy. Then, of course, your third drive, James Cook houses it from 64 yards out. Then the 4th drive, you kind of lean back into your passing offense and you can't get it going. You're incomplete on 1st down, targeting Elijah Moore. Then you have a 4-yard run, and then it's incomplete on 3rd down, and you punt the ball. There was just no rhythm. And so I think obviously the game kind of, to me, broke wide open when you had the A.J. Epinesa interception that set up a short touchdown run for Josh Allen, and that gets you into the 3rd quarter, and you score on that opening drive. But you just ultimately don't feel good about this passing offense right now. And whether it's, some of it's on Josh, some of it's on available options down the field, but ultimately it doesn't look like Josh has a lot of confidence throwing the ball right now. And so I want to see that change. I want to see that be where it's supposed to be. And whether it's adding something at receiver, looking at some scheme stuff, looking at, how you're calling plays, there's something to figure out here because it looks kind of broken to me. And that's a concern. All right, let's talk about things I liked on the defensive side of the football. And I think there's a lot to be happy about. Now, look, I know that this is Andy Dalton, who was horrible in the game, and he's a backup quarterback. Trust me, I know that game script matters, but there's still a lot to be happy about. And kind of the opposite, where you love the rushing offense and you wanted to see the past offense take off out of the bye, and it really didn't. But we had questions about defense, and I think we came away really satisfied with how a lot of this looks coming out of the bye. And I'll start with all the new elements, right? There's a lot of new elements to this defense. that we saw for the first time in this game. And that starts with Maxwell Harrison, the Bills' first-round pick at cornerback. I was pretty surprised that the Bills activated him, and he played a good amount of snaps in this game, rotating with Tre'Davious White. Had a big open field tackle, was kind of a splash play. I mean, he was one-on-one, had to make the play. It was a good stick. And I'm looking forward to watching the tape on him and seeing, more of the coverage and having a feel for how he played. But yeah, I thought they would kind of ease him back with some more practice before they put him out there in games. But they obviously felt confident with where he was at, with not only the condition of his knee, but his capacity to step in and help, and got some really meaningful playing time in this game. And I'm sure that'll continue to ramp up as the games move along. So you got a big addition at corner. And of course, Taylor Rapp goes on injured reserve. And you see Jordan Hancock playing a good amount. Jordan Poyer started, but he didn't play every snap. Hancock came in quite a bit and played in some deep alignments. You saw a good amount of Cam Lewis at safety as well. I think a lot of that was probably dime, but you worked in some different stuff at safety, and you needed to. So it was good to see things happen at safety that led to a positive defensive performance, and really exciting to see Jordan Hancock get some playing time. At linebacker, you're without Matt Milano. Terrell Bernard's active, but only can play in an emergency capacity. And so you start Shaq Thompson and Dorian Williams. Joe Andreessen works in at linebacker when you go three backers. And so those guys collectively played well and limited this Panthers offense. And each individually made some plays. Dorian Williams on the first drive, the Panthers get the ball. They go 3 and out. At second down plays, Dorian Williams with a big fill. I think you felt Shaq Thompson throughout the game. So you're down your top 2 backers, and you had one of your best defensive performances in a long time. Up front, you get Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi back. How about Hoyt? You felt him, right? 1.5 sacks, a tackle for loss, 2 quarterbacks hits, and a forced fumble. That guy can ball. And then you also had Sean McDermott taking a role, calling plays with Bobby Babich. So you came out of this bye week with some different stuff for your defense at literally every spot. And I think it was all really positive when reflecting on this game. How about the run defense? We heard all week, Panthers rushing offense is great. The Bills rushing defense is bad. Well, in this game, the Bills met the moment. Carolina ran the ball 28 times for 114 yards. That's 4.1 yards per carry. You can live with that. It's a really good collective effort. I thought the Bills did well to roll the safety down, give them a little bit extra in terms of numbers in the box. They played 3 linebackers even when their top 2 were out. I thought they tackled pretty well. At least it felt like that watching the game. So I thought you saw a really nice shift in performance of run defense against a Panthers offense that has been running the ball really well. And then just how about the splash plays on defense? They were piling on the splash plays. First drive of the game, Ed Oliver with the sack on 3rd down. The second drive of the game, Panthers are moving the ball, but Greg Rousseau comes up with a huge forced fumble and Christian Benford recovers it. Then you have the A.J. Epinesa interception. Boy, I bet you he's mad he didn't score, right? He was so close. Joey Bosa with a sack. Greg Rousseau had a sack. That was really big, right? The Panthers were threatening to get some points before the half. And obviously, Greg Rousseau's sack not only takes away a possibility of a touchdown, but forces that field goal attempt to be rushed, and they missed it. Pretty short field goal. Jordan Phillips with a sack. We already mentioned it. Michael Hoyt with a strip sack. Deion Walker with the fumble recovery. And then Walker and Hoyt also split a sack. Epinesa had a sack. You had 7 sacks and 3 takeaways, an interception and 2 fumble recoveries. So defensively, 9 points allowed. They go 4 of 11 on 3rd downs. They have 244 total yards. You get 7 sacks and 3 takeaways. Yeah, it's a backup quarterback. But that's what you're supposed to do. And they did that. So I think there's a lot to be happy about with the defense. especially when you consider the new elements that led to the performance. All right, folks, we got more to do. We're going to talk about some things that I didn't like on defense. We'll recap my predictions. We'll talk about what's next for the Bills in this podcast, and I'll share some thoughts on what was a really awesome weekend here in Charlotte with Bills Mafia taking over. So we'll do that here next, folks. Be sure to stick with me. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, it's easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app makes it very simple. You can even see your exact view from your seat before buying, which I personally love, and it's this simple. It's the fastest, cheapest, and least stressful way I've ever purchased tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And, of course, football is still brewing. I'm loving all the prop bets on the football side of things. I did pretty well. I told you I had the Jets money line. I thought the Jets were going to beat the Bengals. That worked out well for me this weekend. So check it out, folks. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, folks, welcome back. We're battling through here with the throat. I promise you I'll be okay in the morning, but I told you I cheered. I cheered loud for the Bills. Had to make sure everybody knew. So we're battling here, but we got more to say. So let's get into some things that I didn't like defensively, and I'm starting to get concerned about Taron Johnson. Now, I'm excited to go back and watch the tape, but it just kind of felt like they were going after him, and he was giving up some separation and some cushion, and felt like anytime they completed a meaningful pass, it was right at Taron, and even a couple of misfires from Andy Dalton would have had even more production against Taron Johnson. And so, definitely not his best game. And I don't think he's played his best football this year, like a lot of Bills defensive players, but hopefully that gets on track. But felt like he got worked in this game. Obviously don't like the Ed Oliver situation. He left the game and was quickly ruled out with a bicep injury. And, Dr. Kyle Trimble doesn't like the outlook here. We'll obviously get some more official word on Monday, probably, but that would be a big loss. And it's disappointing because when you really think about the player he was down the stretch last year, the player he's been when he's been available this year, he's been really good. And he's a really critical part of what this Bills defense is. And it'd be a tough loss. And it just the Bills just can't get ahead with this defensive tackle thing, right? I mean, Ed Oliver in week 1 goes down, then TJ Sanders goes down. Daquan Jones pops his calf before the Falcons game. You get Ed Oliver back. Ed Oliver's now out again. It's very frustrating. And it's nice to get Larry Ogunjobi back, but what would really be nice is if the Bills can have their full arsenal of defensive tackles. And I'm fearful that we might not see it. I don't like the possibilities here with this Ed Oliver biceps injury. And so now you kind of look at this and you need some help at defensive tackle possibly. And you obviously the receiver thing is still there. And so this trade deadline is November 4th. And it feels like Brandon Beane's probably got to go get a D tackle and a receiver, meaningful ones. And so I hate that for Ed because I think he was really turning it on, and you just know the defense is better when he's available. And so this is pretty frustrating. Let's talk about my predictions real quick. I did pretty good. My first prediction was that the Bills would rush for 25 yards more than the Panthers allow so far this year. And so they needed to hit 118 rushing yards. They hit 245. So we got that one. I missed this one. I said Dalton Kincaid would have over 41 and a half receiving yards. He only had 23, was targeted 3 times, had 1 catch for 23 yards. Look, he didn't play in the fourth quarter. The passing game really wasn't clicking, but I would have liked to have hit that one. I thought about him or Khalil Shakir for that prop, and I went with Kincaid. I should have went with Shakir. I said that the Bills would hold the Panthers under 140 rushing yards, which is what they average. Of course, that did happen. The Bills held him to 114. I predicted that the Bills would be +2 in sacks, meaning they would record 2 more sacks than the Carolina Panthers, and boy, they smashed that one. They got 5 more sacks than the Panthers got. And I predicted the Bills would win, and that happened. So we go 4 for 5 on predictions this week. Next up for the Bills is a home game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs play on Monday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. So the Bills will have a rest advantage, and we'll get to watch the Chiefs on Monday night. But they've been playing some pretty good football, and it'll be a good test for the Bills. And the Chiefs dynamics are always so interesting because the Bills have won like the last 4 in the regular season. But as we know, the Chiefs have ended the Bills season 4 times in the playoffs. And so, it's hard to beat them twice. Obviously, the Bills haven't proven able to do that, but I think it'll be a good game for us to really measure some of the strengths and weaknesses of the Bills and find out some things as the November schedule is coming, right? That's where you really got to start playing your best football is in November, and the Bills will have the opportunity to do that in their next game. Next for this podcast, we have Bill Squad. Bill Squad's going to be Monday, excuse me, at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Because I was at the game and Jeremy also had some commitments as well. We're going to do our traditional reaction Monday at 1:30. Then we'll also do the Thursday show as well for Bill Squad. So don't miss that. And then all 22 review will come later on Monday. Real quick, had an incredible weekend. Obviously, the Bills play in Charlotte every 8 years. And I live in Charlotte, so I was really excited for the Bills Mafia takeover that happened, and it certainly did. So many great events throughout the city, and fans were everywhere. It was really cool. I had a chance to stop by at the Horseshoe on Friday night, had a great time there, got a chance to interact with some folks, and then I hosted an event on Saturday. And it was incredible. We had over 500 people RSVP for the event. I guess a good amount of them showed up, and we had a lot of fun. It was a great venue. The weather was awesome, and it meant the world to me. So many people showed up. I got to connect with so many different people. I got a chance to introduce my family, and they got a chance to meet a lot of listeners to the podcast. And so thanks to everyone who came out to that. It was a total blast. And shout out to Sean, who really put the whole thing together and made it possible. So that was really, really cool. And then game day was just awesome. Like I said, I think conservatively 65 to 75% of that stadium was Bills Mafia. And it was a heck of a scene, and it was really cool to see the Bills Mafia take over. And boy, it did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. So what a weekend it was here in Charlotte. And I'm excited for the stretch run here. Obviously, some big games coming up, Kansas City, then Miami. It's time to stack wins. It's time for this team to really define itself and see what they have. And so I think we're getting some clarity. I think there's some positives defensively. You love this run game, but we want to see this passing game come to life. And I think that's probably going to require a trade. And so hopefully Brandon Beane can get something done, and he might need to add a defensive tackle as well. So we'll obviously talk about it all the way through. We'll see what happens. Break it all down for you here on Locked On Bills, so don't miss anything. Make sure you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.